Exposes a massive cover-up in Erin Brockovich. Johnny Depp encounters the satanic guardian of the Ninth Gate. And Ralph Fiennes and Liv Tyler are star-crossed lovers in Onegin.
There's two things that aggravate me, Mr. Masry. Being ignored and being lied to.
I never lied.
You told me things would be fine. They're not.
Julia Roberts plays a self-described loser who turns herself into an ace investigator for Albert Finney in Erin Brockovich, and that's one of 5 new movies we'll review this week. I'm Roger Ebert, film critic of the Chicago Sun-Times.
And I'm Joyce Kilhaywick, film critic for WBZ-TV in Boston.
Our first movie is Erin Brockovich, based on the real-life story of a woman who more or less talked herself into a job in the office of a personal injury lawyer and then single-handedly conducted an investigation that led to a $333 million penalty for a California utility found guilty of contaminating groundwater. Julia Roberts stars as a divorced mother of 3 whose new job shows her as a powerhouse capable of slugging it out with her boss, played by Albert Finney, who thinks they may have bitten off more than they can chew.
Something like this, and it could take forever. They're a huge corporation. They could bury us in paperwork for the next 15 years. I'm just a guy with a small private firm.
If Erin Brockovich looks a little daringly dressed there, well, she looks the same way all through the movie, dressing like a hooker in every scene.
Here you may want to rethink your wardrobe a little.
Why is that?
Well, I think some of the girls are a little uncomfortable because of what you wear.
Is that so? Well, it just so happens I think I look nice. And as long as I have 1 ass instead of 2, I'll wear what I like, if that's all right with you.
Yeah, it's a snappy comeback, but I think the wardrobe is a disaster for this film because it underlines the fact that we're looking at a glamorous movie star, Julia Roberts, and not a dogged investigator, Erin Brockovich.
It's for my boss. He's in this water dispute, and he wants me to find all kinds of papers just from all kinds of places. You know, it would probably be easiest if I just squeezed back there and poked around myself. Would that be all right with you?
Oh, heck yeah, come on back.
Brockovich likes to be rude and direct with people, including a next-door neighbor played by Aaron Eckert.
You got a little girl?
Yeah, sexy, huh? How about this for number 6? That's how old my other daughter is. 8 is the age of my son. 2 is how many times I've been married and divorced. 16 is the number of dollars I have in my bank account. 850-3943. That's my phone number. And with all the numbers I gave you, I'm guessing 0 is the number of times you're going to call it.
Erin Brockovich is haunted by the ghosts of earlier and better movies on a similar theme. I kept remembering how convincing Meryl Streep was in Silkwood as a nuclear plant worker with dangerous information, and how effective John Travolta was in A Civil Action, which was also about industrial pollution and did a much more convincing job of portraying the victims and their families. Erin Brockovich, on the other hand, is very thin in its supporting roles. Even Albert Finney seems curiously subdued here, and Julia Roberts, wearing that absurdly distracting wardrobe, is just never able to create a convincing character.
You know, I couldn't disagree with you more. I'll give you this. Silkwood is a better film, a more serious film in many ways. But
and so is A Civil Action.
No, A Civil Action was serious, but it didn't work. And I think it works because it did not do a good job of portraying the victims and their families. That movie ended up talking about the lawyers, and we didn't care about them. Here, Julia Roberts keeps the focus on the victims and their families because she, like them, is a victim of the system in a certain way, in a different way from these families. I think this is capitalizing on all of her strengths. She's gutsy, she's earthy, but she's feminine and she's vulnerable. And who says that a woman with cleavage can't be an effective voice and get something
I certainly don't
accomplished.
say
I
that.
mean, I don't think the wardrobe is that much of a distraction.
I'm on the record for 25 years in favor of cleavage. What I'm saying is it's wrong for this movie because it makes Julia Roberts come to the foreground, and we constantly see Julia Roberts. We never see Erin Brockovich.
I think it's okay for Julia to come to the foreground because she is in service of the emotion that has to do with what we feel about those families.
I just never bought it, and especially the victims who looked to me like they were right out of Central Casting. They didn't really come alive for me.
I bought it, and I thought the dialogue worked, too. I wish I had someone writing that dialogue for me. Our next movie shouldn't be watched by anyone about to take a trip on an airplane. Final Destination begins when Alex Browning, played by Devon Sawa, is waiting to take off on a flight to France with his high school class. Suddenly, in a terrifyingly convincing scene, he has a premonition of disaster and jumps out of his seat in a panic.
This is your idea of joke. It's not a joke. It's not a joke. Alex, take it. It's not a joke. We will remove you from this aircraft. I will take you. I'll remove myself.
After Alex and several others are removed from the plane, the worst happens. But tension builds as death seems to stalk the survivors. When one of them dies, Alex and another survivor sneak into the morgue and meet the Undertaker.
The red light that we stop at or run, the people we have sex with or won't with us, the airplanes that we ride or walk out of. It's all part of death's sadistic design, leading to the grave.
Design? Does that mean if you figure out the design, you can cheat death?
The rest of the movie focuses on who's going to die next and how.
Come on! Get out! I can't get out!
Now that scene, despite the obviously ludicrous situation, worked for me. I felt real tension as that train and death came bearing down on these kids. Despite mistakes like the corpse's eyes twitching and ham-fisted touches like the Undertaker's name being Bloodworth, this film packed a superficial charge. Most of it is well-paced and edited to make you jump. And the opening sequence is so realistic and frightening that the doomed atmosphere clung to the rest of this movie. Maybe I should call it a guilty pleasure, but Final Destination was definitely a cheap thrill, and I enjoyed the ride.
I enjoyed the ride, too. You know, it's important, I think, to look at movies in terms of their intentions. Like I thought Erin Brockovich didn't work as a serious movie. This one does work as a goofy movie.
It does.
It's a superior dead teenager movie. You know, it's like Scream, and I Know What You Did Last Summer, and all of those other films, but it's a little better because it's a little more serious in terms of their discussion about fate and death, and it's also very effective in the way that it sets up some of these situations.
Well, the director here really has a knack for creating tension and building tension and suspense, and this is the ride you want to take here. I think it worked, and maybe I don't have to feel guilty about it.
There was one other thing. Now, what about the Rube Goldberg death situations? They were gruesome in a kind of a bleakly comic way.
Well, they were inventive. I thought a few of those went on too long, but the ending again really turned me on. I really liked it.
Okay, coming up later in the show, Ray Fiennes and Liv Tyler in a story of doomed love, Onegin.
Why do you pursue me like this?
Coming up next, Johnny Depp collects books by the devil in The Ninth Gate.
It's miraculous.
Have you studied the engravings? They seem to have some underlying significance.
But of course. Here, for example. This one could be interpreted as a warning. Venture too far, it seems to say, and danger will descend on you from above.
Our next movie is Roman Polanski's The Ninth Gate, starring Johnny Depp as a rare book hustler who gets a commission from a millionaire obsessed with tracking down editions of a book published in 1666 and allegedly illustrated by Satan himself. Frank Langella plays the collector who has purchased one copy of the book from another collector who then hung himself. Now Langella wants Depp to investigate the other two copies.
The engravings you're now admiring were adapted by Torquia from the Della Melannicum. They form a kind of satanic riddle. Correctly interpreted with the aid of the original text and sufficient inside information, they're reputed to conjure up the Prince of Darkness in person.
Lena Olin plays the widow of the collector who killed himself, and her interest in the books will become positively satanic, although in this early scene she plays it cool.
Isn't this one of my husband's books?
Right. It was in his collection until very recently. He sold it to a client of mine. I'm trying to authenticate it.
He sold it, you say? How strange. This was one of his most treasured possessions.
In Paris, Depp visits an elderly baroness, and I was reminded in this and other scenes of The Big Sleep and other private eye movies where the investigation leads to one bizarre encounter after another.
You truly believe in the devil, Baroness?
Enough to devote my life and my library to him. Not to mention many years of work. Don't you?
The movie generates a lot of mystery and interest at the beginning, and then it all just dribbles away. By the end, we're left with unanswered questions and unquestioned answers, and a final shot that seems like a toss-up between heaven and hell. And who exactly is the mysterious woman played by Emmanuelle Seigner, Polanski's wife, who follows Depp all over Europe? Is she angelic or satanic, and does it matter?
No, it doesn't matter. This was such a silly movie, and I'm having a hard time squaring this movie with Roman Polanski, who gave us Chinatown and gave us Rosemary's Baby, movies that were truly horrifying and dealt with the dark side. This film is not at all scary.
No.
There are moments here, and I'm not making this up, there's a moment when Johnny Depp sneaks into this chateau wearing this black hooded getup, and I am reminded of an episode of Scooby-Doo. This is like, you know, they're on the edge of investigating some mystery, and it doesn't make any sense.
When I started with the movie, I thought it was going to go somewhere because it starts so well, and then it doesn't go downhill fast. It just goes downhill gradually, but it just keeps going downhill. At the end of the first hour, I still had hopes for it, but there's no conclusion.
No, and why doesn't he, when he sees the first body, why doesn't he go to the police instead of going to a phone booth? I mean, it's just
an
nuts.
Excellent question. Coming up next, Ralph Fiennes is the tragic hero, Onegin.
Ah, Monsieur Onegin, this is my other daughter, Tatiana.
You don't believe me, I'm serious.
And so, Eugene Onegin meets Tatiana, the love of his life, but he doesn't know it yet. Ralph Fiennes and Liv Tyler play the tragic lovers in Onegin, based on Alexander Pushkin's epic verse novel set in 19th century Russia. In this scene, the fresh-faced country girl, Tatiana, has written the jaded Onegin a love letter which he attempts to return.
I admired your letter.
Admired?
Yes. Your candor. I was moved by it. However, I would not wish you to feel compromised by its being in my possession.
Later, Onegin further burns his country bridges by reluctantly agreeing to a duel with his friend Lenski, who is Tatiana's sister's fiancé.
Is this necessary?
You have insulted the honor of the woman I love.
After the duel, Onegin disappears, but 6 years later, back in St. Petersburg, he encounters Tatiana again, and for the first time, his feelings for her are awakened.
I have to see you. Forgive me.
I would like you to leave.
I cannot.
Onegin is exquisitely photographed, much of it on location in St. Petersburg. But while we can imagine why an innocent girl and an urban sophisticate might be drawn to each other, we don't see it or feel it on screen. Liv Tyler is beautiful, but looks almost numb and drowsy. Fiennes seems too effete, too cold. For me, Onegin was a beautiful but arid exercise that failed on the level of simple storytelling.
Me too. That's the way I felt too, and I loved looking at this movie. I almost liked looking at it and listening to it and to the music and even to some of the dialogue enough to recommend it just on the basis of the physical experience of sitting there in the theater, and yet I didn't believe at any moment that anything real was happening between these two people. There's not that kind of urgent connection that you need for passionate love.
Right. There's no urgent, erotic, visceral charge here. It's almost as though first-time director Martha Fiennes, who has a great deal of background directing music videos and commercials, spent a lot of time on the details of the surface, but the guts is missing. And I've seen the ballet.
It's almost like the characters had read the end of the story and knew it wasn't really going anywhere. A few years ago, we reviewed an extraordinary documentary named Paradise Lost that was about the murder of 3 little boys in West Memphis, Arkansas. 3 local teenagers were charged with the crimes and found guilty. 1 received a death sentence, the other 2 were imprisoned for life in a mood of hysteria in which they were stereotyped as members of a satanic cult, and they were heavy metal listeners. The documentary cast serious doubts on that verdict, and now there's a sequel called Paradise Lost 2 Revelations, which plays this month on HBO. Time has changed Damien Echols, who received the death penalty. We see him defiant after his arrest.
So like I'm the West Memphis boogeyman. Little kids will be looking under their bed before they go to bed. Damien might be under there.
But now subdued and more thoughtful after hard prison time.
The things that we go through that make us suffer are very good teachers. I think my suffering through this whole thing has taught me a very great deal.
We also see another familiar face, John Mark Byers, stepfather of one of the murdered boys. The first film suggested that he might have been involved in the murders himself, and he's the focus of groups who believe the 3 young prisoners are innocent.
Do you think that I'm guilty, that I had something to do with murdering my son? You're not saying anything about that.
I don't know if you had anything to do with it. I want to know that you didn't, and that would be by giving your
Rule yourself out for it. I've already been exonerated. What else do I have to do?
Byers' wife died a few years ago, and the death is still under investigation. Here he pays a visit to her grave and rants against any suspicion that he was involved in her death.
And all for you morons, infidels, and fools that think I had anything to do with it, go to hell!
But later in the film, he makes what sounds to me like a big Freudian slip.
Have you had any other problems with the police?
Not major, no, sir.
You've had problems? Is that what you're saying? I don't know.
Oh, well, speeding tickets. I got a DWI one time after my wife was murdered.
The film's position is very clear. The 3 prisoners were victims of hysteria in a climate that claimed they were members of a satanic cult. A lot of evidence points to their innocence, and some evidence, including a bloody knife and some missing teeth, create doubts about Byers. Decide for yourself. Paradise Lost 2, Revelations, has played twice on HBO and plays 3 more times this month. Check your listings.
I have to say, this was one of the most difficult movies I have ever had to watch. And I watched part 2 first and then went back and had to make myself watch part 1. The filmmakers are absolutely to be commended for throwing a very harsh light on some real dark corners here. And at the very least, this film demands that the facts be re-examined in a neutral legal setting again. What about those bite marks? What about this stepfather who has to be one of the most frightening people I've ever seen on screen? And at the very most, this film might help prevent a gross miscarriage of justice.
You know, when you say a neutral setting, I think that's crucial because it's clear in the first film and clear in the second film that the local people involved have a vested interest in being right about this, no matter whether they're right or wrong.
There was a foregone conclusion, and I think that has clearly affected the way the jury behaved here, the way the townspeople behaved, and the way the reporters covering this case have behaved in not reporting some of the facts that were very important, not highlighting them, not seeing it because they just didn't get it.
Actually, the Arkansas Gazette has done a pretty good job of calling a lot of this into question. That woman in the film comes across pretty well, but boy, to see this film really gets you worked up, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
It's disturbing. When we come back, my video pick of the week is The King of the Jungle.
Roger Ebert in the Movies Video Pick of the Week is brought to you by Nestle Raisinets. At the movies or at home, Raisinets.
My video pick this week is Tarzan, the Disney animated feature about a British orphan who's raised in the jungle by great apes and learns to speak the languages of the animals. The early scenes when Tarzan is cuddled by his foster mother Kala have a surprising appeal.
I will protect you from all around you. I will be here, don't you cry.
Tony Goldwyn voices the adult Tarzan, who falls deeply in love after meeting Jane, the daughter of a scientist.
Stay back. Don't come any closer. Please, don't. What are you doing? Please, don't. No, get off.
Jane's voice is by Minnie Driver, and Brian Blessed does a good job with Clayton, the insufferably egotistical villain.
Oh, yes, absolutely, my dear. Good idea. What are you doing? Do you want to frighten them off? Get up! Don't get up.
Tarzan is my video pick of the week. Now let's take another look at the movies we reviewed on this week's show. A split decision on Erin Brockovich. Joyce thought the movie used Julia Roberts' strengths. I thought her stardom was a distraction. 2 somewhat surprised thumbs up for Final Destination, the supernatural thriller. 2 thumbs down, though, for The Ninth Gate, which starts well and goes nowhere. 2 thumbs down for Onegin, a good-looking film that left us cold. And finally, 2 thumbs up for the very important Paradise Lost 2, Revelations, one of the most disturbing films we've seen. Check your local listings for its HBO playdates. Thanks a lot for being here.
Thank you.
Remember, you can hear our reviews on the web at ebert-movies.com, both Joyce and I, part of Go Network. And my print reviews are online at suntimes.com/Ebert. Next week, we'll be back with reviews of more new movies, including Romeo Must Die with Hong Kong action star Jet Li. That's next week, and until then, the balcony is closed.